In the 60s, on a Johnny Carson show, Muhammad Ali and John Wayne had a struggle on TV, and the difficulty understanding each other when they discussed racism and how both saw duty in the world. I would like to tell you that Muhammad Ali knocked him on his behind, but he didn't. But see, they had different honesty and opinions, but they were talking at each other, not to each other. But through talking to each other about the biases and errors in thinking, these men began to see the truth, not from others, but by the honest words they spoke to each other. A racist versus a Muslim. Eventually reaching respect for one another. What we had in the beginning of the show was a failure to communicate. And I hope I got it right, Johnny Carson, because the moderator, he stepped out of the whole conversation. See, this was so real that he just had to let this go naturally, no matter how it fared. The power to be honest and accepting when you don't know everything and respecting what each man has to do for himself. But that was then, and this is now a sign of those times and the different struggles, both for white and black, for very different reasons. I'm going to present you with two speeches with different honesty and opinions, show how bias, errors in thinking, racism, faith, duty, and times shaped their conflict, our conflict, and we still are at war right here in America. What this is going to show and emphasize is honesty, humility, and respect. Now, there are pros and cons of both. They call him the Duke, John Wayne, and then pros and cons of Muhammad Ali. So let's go for the confrontation. The pros forced America to confront its contradictions. The exchange exposed the tension between claimed national values, freedom, equality, and lived reality. Revealed hidden biases. Both men voiced assumptions shaped by their race, culture, class, and experience. Assumptions many viewers shared but never examined. Modeled the power of direct honesty. No mediator softened the exchange. Truth emerged because they spoke plainly to each other. Expanded the definition of courage. Viewers saw that courage could mean obedience or resistance, depending on one's circumstances. Created space for mutual respect without agreement. Understanding emerged from though neither man fully abandoned his beliefs. Captured the moral tension of the era. This was during the Vietnam War era, civil rights, and basically generational conflict collided in one conversation. Now the cons. Initial harm caused by loaded language, accusations of cowardice, betrayal, and disrespect reinforced pain before understanding developed. I had to stutter over that because I could not understand how somebody was going to call Muhammad Ali a coward when they didn't even serve in the military themselves. Now, they portrayed a military officer and a cowboy on screen, but those bullets, they were blanks. The initial harm caused by loaded language. Like I said, cowardice, betrayal, disrespect, reinforced pain before understanding developed. Oversimplification on live TV. Deep moral questions were forced into a confrontational format. It risks reinforcing stereotypes. Viewers inclined toward one side could dismiss the other without listening. The emotional toll for Black Americans, the discussion echoed daily realities of being judged by people who had never shared their struggle. Polarization. They were polarized before reflecting. Many reacted before they thought. Speech one, the traditionalist, John Wayne's perspective. I was raised to believe duty was simple. When your country calls, you answer. That belief shaped my life and my work and the stories I told on screen. To me, patriotism meant standing firm even when it was uncomfortable. When I looked at Muhammad Ali, I thought I understood him. I thought refusal meant fear. I thought dissent meant weakness. I believed my experience was enough to judge another man's choices. What I didn't understand, what I never had been forced to understand, was how different the world looked from where he stood. I had never been denied basic dignity. I had never been told I was less than. I had never been asked to defend a country that didn't fully defend me in return. I assumed my definition of duty applied equally to everyone. That was a mistake, my mistake. Listening to Ali didn't make me abandon my beliefs, but it made me realize they weren't universal truths. They were shaped by privilege, by comfort, by a life where loyalty was rewarded rather than questioned. I learned that courage doesn't always look like obedience. Sometimes it looks like standing alone. Sometimes it looks like accepting punishment rather than betraying conscience. We didn't agree, but I learned to respect a man who was willing to suffer for what he believed. And I learned that believing you are right does not mean you understand everything. That night taught me this: patriotism without humility becomes blindness, and respect begins when you admit you may not see the whole picture. Speech two, the outsider, Muhammad Ali. I was asked to die for a country that hadn't fully let me live. I was called ungrateful, unpatriotic, a coward, but no one asking those things had ever lived in my skin. When I stood across from John Wayne, I saw a man who believed deeply in duty, but I had never been forced to question whether that duty was evenly shared. I saw someone shaped by a world that worked for him. At first, we talked past each other. He saw refusal. I saw conscience. He saw weakness. I saw faith. We were both trapped by our assumptions. I had to explain something. Many Black Americans already know you cannot ask someone to fight for freedom abroad while denying them dignity at home. My faith told me not to kill. My experience told me the cost of obedience was too high. That didn't make me superior. It made me honest. I didn't expect him to agree with me. I didn't need him to. What mattered was that he listened, not as a symbol, not as an icon, but as a man, hearing another man's truth. I learned something too. I learned that not every disagreement comes from hatred. Some come from limited vision. Some come from never being forced to ask questions the world you inherited. Respect didn't come from winning the argument. It came from speaking plainly and accepting that each of us had to live with the consequences of our choices. That night showed me something powerful. Understanding requires sameness. It requires honesty and the courage to admit when you don't know. White America often struggles with fear of losing stability, identity, control in a rapidly changing nation. Black America struggled for recognition as human beings in a country that demanded loyalty without equality. The clash wasn't personal, it was historical. The breakthrough came not from persuasion, but from mutual exposure to uncomfortable truth. The final reflection, the moment mattered because it showed that respect is not agreement. It is the willingness to listen, to admit limits, and to allow another person the dignity of choosing their own path. That lesson, born in conflict, shaped by honesty, still speaks today. Take that with you. And me, I still watch a cowboy too, but I understand.